Welcome to Moneyline MMA's coverage following up UFC 288. We're going to be having a fight night card in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Spectrum Center. There's going to be some day fights with the prelims actually starting at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, and the main card will be starting in the early afternoon for most of us here in the United States. This card is headlined by the heavyweights Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Jailton Almeida. This is going to be a really interesting fight with big implications to get inside the top 10 of the UFC heavyweight division. Of course, Almeida, at this point, a prospect in his low 30s, trying to move up and make a statement in a UFC heavyweight division that's going to be all open once John Jones retires. Before we get too deep into things, I'm going to give a quick rundown into what we're doing here at Moneyline MMA with our picks, which is a weighted system. So Jose and I are going to make picks for each of the 5 main event fights on this card. But as well as making a pick, we're going to assess a confidence to that pick, with 5 being the highest level of confidence and 1 being the lowest level of confidence. And each number can only be used once, so you can't have 5 confidence on all your fights. It's one of those things where you pick each fight and then you pick the confidence level in said fight. So it's just an extra step kind of along the process of not only just making a pick, but giving you guys an idea of how confident we are in those picks. And therefore, you can take the weights, add it up, and that will be our lock of the week, essentially. So that being said, we usually start with our heaviest weights first. So you can essentially say that our 5 weight is the lock, the individual lock of the week. Those are rarely going to line up because we make our picks separately, and then we confer at the end of the week or whenever we do the recording. So those 5 weights are almost never going to match up, and most weights won't match up at all unless it just so happens to be a rare case where they do. That being said, we're going to start with my 5 weight, then Jose's 5 weight, and we're going to slowly move down to the picks that we have that are less confident. So to start, my most confident and 5 weight pick of UFC on ABC is going to be the co-main event, the light heavyweight bout, the one of these fights that has the closest odds, actually. Johnny Walker versus Lionheart Anthony Smith. This is the fight I'm honestly most excited to see. It's going to be cool to see some big dudes swinging and banging in the heavyweight division, of course. But honestly, Jose, this is a great matchup making in my mind. And to me, the winner of this fight should be fighting for a number 1 contender fight next. Whether that's against Pereira if he's coming up to 205 or something along those lines. Whoever wins this fight is truly going to be seeing a championship run come to form. Jose, what do you have for weight on this?
Yeah, Nick. So for this one, I agree. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting fights of the night. And I actually have Anthony Smith, and I have him as my 4-weight. And to be honest, I do have him as my 4-weight because of his experience and the level of competition he's gone against compared to Johnny Walker. Though Johnny Walker has some phenomenal finishes, like over Ryan Spann, Ian Cutelaba, and Paul Craig, which of course I'm sure you'll talk about. But at the same time, like some of the dudes, like he's coming off of that win against Ian Cutelaba, and he's looking really good right now. So that that win looks better. But even then, Ian Cutelaba, he lost to Ryan Spann. And that being said, like these guys have actually all fought each other. Like there's a lot of names, like I've seen, like some names I've seen that kind of go with each other. So MMA math doesn't really work there. So the way I'm really looking at it is just based off the experience and knowledge. Anthony Smith, he not only has he had like analyst roles, but he has his own show as well, and he does a great job of analyzing fights. So I think having a fighter like that kind of like is like Dominic Cruz in a way, or like Daniel Cormier, I think that's important. I've heard a lot of times those fighters get extremely better by analyzing fights like that, and I think he's going to bring his maturity within the UFC cage and showcase it, because if he's gone the distance with John Jones, the best, the GOAT, and in my book, that's a win alone, even though he didn't get the belt. And he could have gotten the belt if he went a different route. We all know that. But that being said, I think overall his experience, if he does not get finished by Johnny Walker, I think he should overall theoretically get this win via unanimous decision. And I think, in the grappling department, I truly think that he, though Johnny Walker has only been submitted once and not any time recently, but overall, I think Anthony Smith, his submission skills overall are pretty good. He has a submission win over Alexander Gustafsson as well, former two-time title challenger. So that being said, I think, someone like Johnny Walker, he has comparable size to Alexander Gustafsson, being tall and lengthy. And, on the feet, I think Anthony Smith could be good at avoiding, legit crazy wild shots from Johnny Walker, that as long as he puts him against the cage and does his thing and just grind it slow pace, try to out wrestle him. Yeah, I do think Anthony Smith can get this to a decision victory. Can he knock Johnny Walker out? I was thinking maybe he would have to. I think he would have to do that too, just to guarantee the win, because leaving it to the judges could always be risky. But that's enough about that. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, man, that's definitely a lot. It's hard to rebuke on every one of those points because there were so many. But I honestly here I agree that I think Anthony Smith, sure, he does have more of a jiu-jitsu threat. And I personally don't think that's going to be a factor here. Johnny Walker is very much so the bigger man here at 6'6", 82-inch reach. I mean, that size difference can be very apparent in the ring, and I don't think Anthony Smith is used to that or going to be ready for that. I can totally respect the guy who's analytic and ready to look at the game more in technical. It's kind of like Henry Cejudo too as well. And it's one of those things, man, like you can do that all you want, but it just, sometimes it doesn't matter when you're in the moment. And we saw it, like I hate to say, with Henry Cejudo. That's a pick I got wrong last week. I just think Johnny Walker is looking amazing right now. That size difference is big for me. I think Anthony Smith is get kind of weared out, man. Like I get he has a lot of experience and I can respect his experience, but I think at some point it's like, you've gone past the best of your abilities, and at this point you're just a guy he's fought in like 50 some professional MMA fights. Like I don't know, man, like to me, if either one of these dudes' brains are about to give up, it's definitely Anthony Smith's first. It's one of those things, like the experience helps, but it also harms him, in my opinion, because it's just so much. And Johnny Walker is to me much more live for the KO than Anthony Smith is. And also, I would just honestly disagree that Johnny Walker won't win this by decision if it comes to that, because I don't think Anthony Smith is going to take down Johnny Walker, and I think Johnny Walker is going to kind of piece him up standing wise and easily win 2 of those 3 rounds.
I hear you. Yeah, that is Johnny Walker's a strike. He has been looking scary. He may be entering his prime. To be honest, he looks like he's been just looking better and better. But it's anything can happen. That being said, yeah, I'm going with Anthony Smith as my 4-weight. Maybe if I were to rethink it, maybe I would have had him lower down the weight, like maybe as my 3 at least. Probably nothing lower than that. But yeah, I have him as my 4-weight.
Sure, yeah, and it's fair to say, like, and I always like to remind listeners too, that we're recording this early in the week, so opinions can change. I mean, it's unlikely that it's unlikely that by Saturday I don't think Johnny Walker's going to win, but I might gain a little less or more confidence in him based on some of the media the UFC puts out, interviews and stuff like that. You can kind of get an idea of someone's mindset or strategy, and that kind of definitely gives you an idea of what you're going to see in the ring, and what you might want to do with your money. So yeah, that being said, Jose and I are going to disagree on this co-main event, and we will have to move on to Jose's 5-weight.
Yeah, and then for my 5-weight, this one's between Ian Garry and D-Rod at welterweight, and right now Daniel Rodriguez is the betting underdog at plus 220, while Ian Garry is the betting favorite at minus 295. So for this one, I do have Ian Garry, and I do have him as my 5-weight, but I will admit I don't think he should be that much of a favorite because D-Rod is a legit threat. What weight do you have this fight at, Nick?
I agree with you on picking Garry. I think he's got a really great technical striking ability, and he's still really young, man. So it's crazy to think what his potential could be in the UFC. I only have him as my 2-weight, so I'm a little less confident. I think, like you said, man, D-Rod is a dog, and if we're talking about this matchup specifically, I would say D-Rod is more live for a KO here. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see Ian Garry as being the kind of guy who power strikes as much as I get he's got a knockout against Keenan Song in his last fight, right? But that brings me to my next big point, man. Daniel Rodriguez is a ridiculous step up in competition. Like, from fighting Darian Weeks to Gabe Green to Keenan Song to D-Rod. I don't know, man. I just feel like that's a huge step up in competition. He might not be ranked in the top 10 or anything, but he's incredible. And he's also a member of, I believe, the gym you go to, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. So you just never know what he can do if they bring this to the mat either. I'm sitting here bringing these points against Ian Garry like I'm not picking him, though. Ian Garry is super technical, man. And I think with this extra speed abilities, man, in D-Rod's last couple of fights against like Neil Magny and stuff, he just didn't look that fast. He looked kind of slow. And I think if Ian Garry is going to read that, he could be all over him. I mean, going back to the age thing, Ian Garry's, it's just a fact that your reflexes are best at a young age. I don't know. I think a lot of those small things are going to combine to Ian Garry maybe getting a decision win or something here.
Yeah, man, I agree. Like, I agree too when you say like this is a big step up in competition because it really is. I mean, he Daniel Rodriguez, he throws 7.42 significant strikes per minute, and he has a decision win over Mike Perry. That guy's a brawler, as we've all seen. So I think that's extremely impressive. Kevin Lee, phenomenal kickboxing. We know them, and Jillian Lee as well. Yeah, Neil Magny fight, you were right. It was slow paced and he got submitted. And Ian Garry, the one thing I bring forward, he's not he doesn't have a significant reach advantage, but I think what he does have is the height advantage and also youth behind him. D-Rod's already 34, 36, I should say. So that kind of concerns me, but not too much. I'm expecting to see Ian Garry to probably come in a little more powerful. And D-Rod, again, like let's see how he bounces back from that fight. But I think Ian Garry being undefeated, he doesn't have as many finishes as D-Rod, but he also doesn't have as much experience as D-Rod as well. So only being 2 KO short of him isn't nothing to shy away from. I do think it is anything's possible in this one. I can see Ian Garry literally winning this by decision. And I know you mentioned D-Rod's 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, but I do think that Ian Garry could possibly even sneak something in himself. His grappling isn't the worst. His grappling is probably comparable to D-Rod's, to be honest. So I don't think they're really going to outshine each other. So at that point, I do feel like it's more like a 50-50 and it's anyone's game in the submission. But because of his youth, I think he's going to bring a little more power behind his punches. And because of his height advantage, maybe the chin, I don't know, maybe a bit tougher for D-Rod. So that's how I take it. So I do have the undefeated prospect as my 5-weight for that reason.
Sounds good. Yeah, man. I think those are all reasonable, and the only thing I have left to say is that it was nerve-wracking watching Ian Garry get knocked down by Song Keenan last fight. He looked like he might have lost. He recovered, and I like that. A lot of there's some negatives you can take. Of course, he got hit. Blah blah blah. He's a young kid. He's got to be able to adjust and learn. If he's going to be, as his nickname is, the future, he needs to adjust and learn. I think he will be doing that. And if anything, I see some resilience there. And sure, he got knocked down, but he came back and dominated the fight, got the KO. So I don't really see a net negative there. I'm pretty pumped to be picking Ian Garry, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So there you guys have it. Yeah, both Nick and I have Ian Garry. I have him as my 5-weight, and Nick has him as his 2-weight.
Well, that being said, we'll move on to my 4-weight. That's going to be the main event of Saturday evening. I'm picking the huge favorite, of course, Jailton Almeida to beat Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And look, this is my 4-weight. I'm a little less confident than Johnny Walker winning. And for honestly, just because I was telling Jose, like, this is a heavyweight fight. And I honestly, like, I kind of like a personal rule, like, heavyweight fights can always go any direction. It feels like women's MMA at times too can go any direction. You just never really know. And unless it's John Jones, right? If it's John Jones, okay, yeah, he'll get my 5-weight, of course. But almost anyone else, like, no, not happening. And I'd love to take Almeida in some bets, but just not straight up. What I'd be looking for here specifically, and you know what? I actually before I go too far. I don't want to ramble. Almeida is the minus 590 favorite. Huge. Rozenstruik's plus 390 underdog. Jose, what do you have here?
So yeah, for this one, I have Almeida as my one weight, and reason being is like you said, it's the heavyweight division, and it really can be anything goes. I mean, one thing that does scare me is just Jairzinho Rozenstruik, like Derek Lewis. It can be late in the game. He can take a lot of damage, and then out of nowhere, boom, he throws in that power knockout and just gives it his all. Similar to what he did to Alistair Overeem. So that's the one thing is if Jailton Almeida wants to get this win, he needs to be on his A game and can't even for 1 second feel comfortable, even if it makes it to the fifth round. He needs to literally stay focused in and zeroed in because he should get this win. He doesn't have as much striking experience as Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but overall his MMA experience, he has more compared to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and he throws a lot of strikes per minute too. He actually throws more than Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So, and his grappling, I do think is slightly better. So that being said, Jailton Almeida, he needs to just be on his A game. I don't think he'll knock out Rozenstruik. I don't think he possesses the same power as Francis Ngannou to do that. But but overall, I do think Jailton Almeida will get this win, even by maybe a submission or decision victory. But I don't know if he puts out Jairzinho Rozenstruik, it's really going to have to be a clinic, and it would be more in the later rounds than it would be early on.
Yeah, man. See, I agree with the pick, but I don't think I agree with some of the thoughts on the way Almeida should be handling this fight. I think he's actually live for a KO. Look, I get that Derek Lewis and Volkov, okay, those are some of the only guys that knock him out. I don't see why Almeida can't. In my opinion, it may not just be either a standing, like they're just both standing there boxing and Almeida knocks him out. Like, to me, there's a lot of live scenarios where Almeida takes down Rozenstruik and elbows him into a TKO or some other, like, you just never know, man. Like, so personally, that's what I was going to say earlier is I'm betting Almeida and this fight to not go the distance. To me, I'm pretty confident this fight won't go the distance. I think Rozenstruik understands that at some point he's going to have to knock this dude out because Almeida will win this by this. To me, there's like 1 in 1,000 worlds where Rozenstruik wins this decision. If Rozenstruik does not knock out Almeida, I do not think he has a chance to win this fight. And that's one of the main reasons I also have Almeida as my 4-weight, man. You may not agree, but to me, that's definitely what the case will be here. Almeida has dominated everybody he's fought. And granted, he hasn't fought, like, this is going to be his biggest test, right? He hasn't obviously fought anyone else as good as Jairzinho, but I still don't think it's going to matter that much because Almeida is not 24. He's 31 years old. And he's experienced, more experienced in professional MMA than Rozenstruik, as you mentioned. So for all those reasons, man, I'm putting some money on Almeida and under 5 rounds, at least inside the distance, whatever your book has.
Yo, I mean, if it goes within the distance, I would say I would say it's pretty doable that Almeida also wins by submission, even though Jairzinho Rozenstruik's never been submitted. But 11 out of the 18 wins Almeida has are via submission, and he actually, before his most recent TKO, he was coming off 2 back-to-back rear naked chokes in the first round. And then even before that, he has another rear naked choke. He has a couple submissions in the first round too. So what are the chances Almeida gets a first round submission on Rozenstruik too? That could be doable because, again, I do think his grappling is far superior than Rozenstruik's. Rozenstruik is more of that striker. Again, Almeida puts him against the cage, and once he takes, if he doesn't take him down right away, he's got 5 rounds, and at some point he takes him down. I can see him looking for that neck. So that's also, I think, that would probably be the way I would go if it went down within the 5 rounds.
Man, so that'll be it for us then. We agree at different confidence levels. I'm heavily going with Almeida inside the distance because you get the advantage of any win method. I'm just saying that he's going to win it inside 25 minutes. I think that's pretty likely. Moving on, let's go to your 3-weight, Jose.
So for my 3-weight, this is actually another pretty exciting fight, I think, at the welterweight belt, and it's between Tim Means and Alex Morono. Right now, Tim Means is the betting underdog at plus 172, while Alex Morono is the betting favorite at minus 225. I actually have nothing but really good things to say about Alex Morono. So that's why I'm going to go with him as my 3-weight, because I mean, him picking up that picking up a last minute fight against Santiago Ponzinibbio back in December, I thought it was impressive because he was giving it to him up until that TKO in the third round. But before I get too much into it, what weight do you have this fight at?
So this is one of those rare cases where we actually do line up 100%. I have my 3-weight on Morono as well. So we have Morono. We have a similar level of confidence, the same level of confidence. And really for the same reasons, honestly. You brought it up. Morono takes a last-minute fight against an extremely good striker. Yeah, okay, he gets knocked out in the third round, but I'm not completely writing him off. His only other losses outside of that are to some really good fighters. Anthony Pettis 3 years ago, Cass Williams 3 years ago. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not too concerned about Alex Morono's losses. And I think he's also got some really good wins, specifically Semmelsberger is a guy who's been kind of making some waves lately. I know he's maybe not winning every fight, but I think Semi puts on a show every time he fights. And he recently lost a split decision that I thought he should have won. That being said, I don't mean to take away that much from Tim Means. Just to me that he's also kind of getting a little bit older. Alex Morono is much closer to his prime. So for those reasons, yeah, 3-weight for me.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment, Nick. As I'm looking at it, these guys, a lot of the names they've gone to, the level of competition is very comparable. I'm almost surprised that the money line isn't tighter than what it is. Even Tim Means back in the day when he went the distance and lost split decision to Bilal Muhammad. So, and even before he had some good experience, to Matt Brown, Neil Magny. So both these guys, they've seen a lot, but. Alex Morono, he was already coming off a 4-fight win streak, which also came over the names of Donald Cerrone in the first round and McGee Gall. That being said, and he also fought Anthony Pettis back in the day as well in 2020, so went the distance with him. That being said, yeah, I'm going with Alex Morono. He's in my middleweight because, again, the two guys below me, I just feel like, that much different about it, but Alex Morono, I think it's a fair fight. I think this should have been a tighter money line, but not to beat a dead horse over, I have him as my 3-weight, just like yourself, Nick.
Yes, so then let's move on. This is only these only my 1-weights left, and your what is it? Your 2-weight, I believe.
Yep, my 2-weight.
So I'll let you go ahead because you technically have you have more confidence in this final pick, which is just obviously by process of elimination, the opening fight on this main card.
Yes, so this is another welterweight bout between Matt Brown and Court McGee. And right now, Matt Brown, he is of course, they don't have him right here. Right now, Matt Brown, he is the betting underdog at plus 180, while Court McGee is the betting favorite at minus 235. I don't know what's up with the money line, because I think a lot of these fights should definitely be closer than what they're appearing, because Matt Brown being a plus 175 underdog to me kind of surprises me. But that being said, I am not going with the underdog. I am actually going with the favorite, Court McGee. And yeah, he's my 2-weight. So who do you have as your 1-weight, Nick?
Man, I have Matt Brown as my 1-weight, so we're going to disagree. But obviously, man, this is the one I was least confident in, and I kind of mean being least confident. Both these dudes, man, they're old, dude. This is like the UFC, like, oh man, these guys have one fight left on their contract. Who are we going to put them? Let's just put them against each other. Genius. It's genius. Then we get 2 old dudes out of the UFC because look, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but like, yeah, the fact that this is also on the main card is kind of laughable, because they have some other fights in the prelims that I think they put just try to gain more hype. I know Dana White has said he puts one of the fights he thinks is going to be the most exciting outside the main and co-main on the main of the prelims. So you might as well watch the end of the prelims and then go get food and then come back for the second fight of the main card. I'm sorry to say. But that being said, I do have Matt Brown here. Not that much confidence in it.
Yeah, and it is the age thing is a factor, and him just already being 4 years, he's already past his 40s, and he has a lot more a few more fights actually than Court McGee, and it's crazy to think, but I definitely am going to go with Court McGee. He throws more significant strikes per minute. I just can't see Matt Brown being the same dog that he used to be, being that powerful. I think he's going to be more of a guy just to show up and fight than Court McGee. Court McGee at least had 2 wins back to back. Matt Brown, besides that 2-round KO punch to Lima, he lost 2, and then he lost another one to Brian Barberina right after the split decision. So he's still somewhat in it, but I think Court McGee, I think he's likely to win this by decision. He's got, out of his 21 wins, 11 are via decision. Matt Brown, yeah, he's lost, has his losses in submission in a decision, and though he is, I mean, he could be live for a knockout though too, just as crazy because he has 15. He did get a knockout not too long ago as well. So that's why, yeah, I have Court McGee as my two weight. Not as confident, but again, these are just two older guys going at it, and I'm gonna go with the younger of the two.
I see a lot of value here in Matt Brown being the underdog, man. Like he fought Brian Barberina, who I think is like, not, obviously he's not an animal, but he's a good like tester of the division. And the fact that it was a split decision loss, man, like that says something. Matt Brown still has dog in him. Court McGee gets knocked out. All right, I'm just saying. I like the value you can get out of Matt Brown.
I definitely agree with that statement, Nick.
So,
Definitely.
all right. Well, that will wrap it up here for Moneyline MMA. Definitely follow us on Twitter at Moneyline MMA to get our final picks on Saturday. It'll be likely a lock, Ian Garry and or Alex Morono. We liked Almeida, but the totals there and confidence don't add up. And we disagreed on the co-main. So probably Alex Morono for our lock, but we will be determining that in the future. Maybe Jose moves a couple guys around. Maybe I do. But thanks, guys, for listening. Let us know down below who you agree with and who you'll be betting on. Have a great week. We'll talk to you guys later.